Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 29 of Cameron's Nostalgia Podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Strickland, and today I have with me Earl Fisher. How are you?
I'm fine. How you all doing?
I was doing good. Now, for any of you guys who don't know, Earl is a voice actor for Booker T. Bookworm on Barney and Friends.
That's right. I'll say hello as Booker T.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet ya.
That's my dog barking. Yeah, I think he likes trying to do voices too. I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
And he was working on Francesco's Friendly World.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah, it was a children's series, animated series, distributed on VHS and CD, I believe.
And so many video games.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of video games in recent years, right? Definitely. I also was still am the voice of Pasquale at Chuck E. Cheese. Been doing that for 25 years. And also, there's a few other characters that I do for Chuck E. Cheese. But Pasquale's my main character.
Nice. Let's begin our first, let's begin our first question.
Okay.
How did you get interested in voice acting?
Well, I got interested in acting first in general. When I was in high school, I got involved in a school play and realized how much I liked it. I was always a bit of a clown, and a class clown, always goofing around, wanting to get the laughs and the attention. And uh, I had never done any acting, but when I did, it was like, wow, this is really cool. You get all these people clapping for you and laughing when you do something funny, and it just seemed to fit my personality very well. And so I went on and kept doing more and more acting and got 2 degrees in acting in theater. And then about the time that I finished my master's degree, I realized it really wasn't the kind of lifestyle that I wanted, the way of making a living. And someone that I worked with had told me about voiceover, that it was a way that you can continue acting without having to do all the rehearsals and all the things that are required to put on on stage productions. And so he introduced me to his agent, and it kind of took off from there. So that's how I got started.
Nice. So, what was your first voiceover gig?
My very first voiceover gig, unpaid, was I used to, when I was in college, some advertising students discovered that I did voices. And but I always, whenever I played a part, I always used a character voice, helped me get out of being Earl and being that other person. And maybe they saw me in a show or something. I don't know. But one time, one of the advertising students approached me, said, "Listen, I've got these projects that are due that I need a voiceover for. Can I talk you into doing that?" So we struck a deal where he paid me with pizza and beer, and I did voiceovers for him. And then he started telling his friends about it. So that was the deal. You go to Earl for a voiceover and cost pizza and beer, which I thought was a pretty good deal at the time, being a student. Um, and my first paid gig was also when I was in college. I did several historical characters for the Iran Film Project at the Michigan State, where I was going to school, had a contract to produce this particular um, historical documentary, I guess it was.
And you got to be Weirdbeard in Captain Weirdbeard and his Merry Swabs.
Yeah, yeah, I was Captain Weirdbeard. It's kind of well, you know the Jimmy Neutron, right? The animated feature and TV show. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jimmy Neutron. Okay, well, the guys who created Jimmy Neutron had done Weird Beard before they got, I was quite a few years, I think, before Jimmy Neutron uh, happened. But yeah, it was kind of a bizarre thing for a film festival, and it kind of took on a little bit of a cult following, I guess, and perhaps still has. Um, but people who follow I think it's called Mike and Ike's Twisted Film Festival or something like that. So yeah, Captain Weirdbeard.
And you got to be Big Bear in Fatal Fury 2 for New Battle.
Yes, yeah, that's an anime that apparently they were reviving it. It was back, I think it was actually originally produced in the 90s, and they were reviving it, maybe 3 years ago, um, to resell. And the person who did Big Bear, I presume, died. They were looking for someone who could match the voice, and so I auditioned for it to match the voice. I'm presuming I came closest to anyone for matching the voice, so it sounded like the original person. And they had some new scenes for him that they needed him to do, or needed me to do.
And what about Joe Higa?
That's the same. That's the same thing. Yeah. That's. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many pieces they put that into, but yeah, that's the same project.
All right. What was it like working on Francisco's Friendly World?
Well, it was nice actually. Um, I started out as just a minor character. It was a bumblebee called Luigi, and they just kind of wanted a little bee buzzing kind of thing, and it was kind of like,
Hey, I'm Luigi. I'm way up in here. I talk like this. Yeah.
and they liked it, and so they started writing more and more lines for it, and eventually it became like a secondary character. And I don't remember how many we did in the series, but we did quite a few. It started out as just a really small character at the first one, and each time it seemed to get bigger.
Okay. And what about Jingaroo, the Water Tree, and other stories?
And that was other home video for kids, um, and there's about a troop of characters in Australia, and it was a lot of fun. I played both the title character Jingaroo, who's a kangaroo, and I also played a Tasmanian cat named Jabiru, who's a very grumpy character.
Everything he said was like this, like, you didn't leave me alone. I'm pissy.
Is that kind of a character, which to me I always have more fun doing the ones that are have attitude of some sort than Jingaroo was just like this, he just talked like this. He was a very friendly fellow. And so yeah, I can't think of a single job that I've done that there wasn't fun, because it was like just you get to be somebody else, you get to play, you get to cut loose, and just let go and discover something interesting and new about yourself. And because every character is kind of an alter ego of yourself. It's something that's in you. You can't come up with a character that doesn't a seed of that character within you somewhere. And so it's nice to explore those things. It's a lot of fun. It's play. I've got to play my entire life for my job, so I have no complaints.
You got to be one of the additional voices for Dana.
Oh yeah, that was one of the very first video games, one of the first major video games that came out. And sometimes they just need lots of extra voices to be people in the crowds, or maybe they have one or two lines. Somebody goes by and they say hello to them, or they don't even have a name. Those characters nowadays they refer to that as being an industrial player, where you come in and do a whole bunch of voices for different characters. And since I can do a pretty broad range of characterization, I often find myself in a session doing those kinds of utility character work.
What about Sprout Diner?
That was a program that PBS had created to teach kids to eat healthy, and they were actually little short. I think there was maybe a dozen or so episodes that would be little referred to as interstitials that happened between other major programming, and they were maybe 5 minutes long, and it would encourage children to eat healthy. And the way they did that is they would have a lot of the well-known popular characters of the time, such as Barney, and Angelina Ballerina, and Bob the Builder, and all these popular characters. They would call in on the phone to the Sprout Diner to order something delicious but healthy, and then Sprout, who's the character that I played, I would then come up with a recipe for something for them, and create it. So it's a pretty simple little plot, but it encouraged children to eat well, and also provided a website link so that parents could go online and get the recipes to make the things that Sprout made during the program.
You were Brussels.
Yeah, Brussels Sprout. Yeah, that's right. His first name was Brussels. The other two characters were Alfalfa and Bean. Alfalfa was his daughter, and Bean was his granddaughter. Bean Sprout, Alfalfa Sprout, and Brussels Sprout.
Could you do the voice?
You see, I think he talks something like this. Yes, something. Yes, I remember close to it.
Something like that.
And you got to work on Smite.
That's a video game. I've done several characters for Smite. I don't really remember what they were, to be honest with you.
And you got to work on Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I've been doing Chuck E. Cheese for 25 years. Well, once this spring comes along, it'll be 26 years since I started. I started in 1999.
You did the unicorn voice.
Yeah. Um, Ronaldo Sagittarius. Hi, I'm Ronaldo. Yeah, I just love being me. Maybe I should sing, or maybe dance, or tell jokes or something. I don't know. Yeah, he was all full of himself. He's one of my favorite characters to play. Maybe that means I'm full of myself. I don't know. But yeah, I liked. Just call me Ronnie. Yeah.
Well, my previous guest, Andy Hayward, was the puppeteer.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I know Andy. I think I'm connected with him on Facebook. We never met, but we know of each other.
All right. You got to work on Borderlands 3.
Yeah, Borderlands, a video game, and I played the it, well, in video games, after they sell you the game, then they sell you different add-on packages that keep the game going, and kind of additional side stories, I guess. And so this was a one of the downloads that you could purchase that I was the main villain for. Um, Little guy named Pretty Boy.
Hey, he just talk like this all the time. He's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna take over everything here. Yeah. He's kind of a bad guy.
All right. You got to work on The Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Yeah, yeah. I was just a real small part in that. It's an interesting thing. Another thing that I did in addition to a small character, there's a thing in games called Walla. Have you ever heard of Walla? Has anyone else talked about that?
Hmm.
No? Well, what Walla is a word they gave to the noise that a crowd makes. When there's a crowd reacting to something, and it's just you can't understand anything they're saying because they're really not saying words, and it just kind of sounds like a whole bunch of people talking at once. And they call that Walla. So they very often have actors who are in there for other parts, or they bring them in just to do Walla, where there's a group of people who stand around the mic and react to different things when they need different crowds of different sizes. They need 3 or 4 people that are reacting, or they need a crowd of 15 or 20, and sometimes they multi-track it, so they're stacking all the noise on top of itself to make it sound like a larger crowd. So that's an interesting thing about game production that people don't know it.
Hey, you got to work on Hearthstone, Ashes of Outland.
Yeah, Hearthstone is a digital card game um, created by Blizzard, and I was in Antonio and Antonitis or something like that. He was a wizard mage character, and so when you play the card, there's a voice that kind of says something when you play the card, or uh, other different kinds of interactions.
And you worked on the World of Warcraft, Shadowlands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. That's one of Blizzard's really big games is World of Warcraft, and I've done several characters over the last few years for World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft. And Diablo, you'll see that on my resume. Um, done voices for Diablo, um, another one of their big ones.
And you got to work on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Yeah, that was a spin-off from Borderlands. Borderlands had developed a pretty good following, so they took one of the main characters that people really liked in Borderlands, named Tiny Tina, and they gave her own game. And I was the Tooth Fairy, um, and the Tooth Fairy is this really bizarre character who collects teeth rather than gives teeth. Or I mean, rather than giving money for teeth, he sends people out on missions to gather teeth for him, and when they do, uh, then he does something terrible to them because they open up the treasure chest where all the teeth are supposed to go, and when they open up the treasure chest, then these bizarre creatures and power and energy comes out and fights them and whatever. Exactly, but yeah, he's like trying to pretend that he's a nice guy, like the Tooth Fairy, but he's really a bad guy.
And you got to work on Diablo Immortal.
Yeah, Diablo. Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah, that's what I was just mentioning. I've done a few characters on Diablo as well.
And you got to work on Diablo um IV
Now, the Diablo 4. Uh-huh.
4.
Hmm.
And you worked on Atlas Fallen.
Hmm. Yep, that was one in which I was hired as a utility player, and I think I had to go to Burbank Studios for that one. Um, yeah, because there's another piece of interest maybe for some of your listeners or viewers, um, is when COVID came along, the only way that we could continue doing voiceover work was that if we each just worked in our own studios from our own homes, so that we wouldn't have to get together, spread the virus. And So w- once COVID had kind of dissipated, everyone was used to the ideas of working remotely. And the nice thing about that is that producers could hire someone from anywhere on earth, really, because if you had a professional home studio and a good connection, you could work with you could work with anyone in the world. And so they continued doing that.
All right. Whoops. I deleted it by mistake.
Did you want me to finish telling you about that?
We didn't finish it yet.
No, no, I hadn't finished. So I'm just saying, when you have people working at home in their own studios, you have all these different microphones that are being used, and the acoustics of their space is all different. So the sound, the quality of the audio, not the performance, but just the quality of the audio is very different. And so they're trying to put all these pieces together into the same game, and it all sounds like it's coming from different environments and different audio qualities. And they have to spend a lot of time tweaking the audio to get it to all sound like it's being produced in the same world, the same feeling to it. And so there's some studios like that one for Atlas Fallen is they said, you got to come out here work in our studio, so everybody is using the same microphones and the same recording space, and it saves us all that extra work. So I went out there, and that was one of the situations where I was hired as a utility player, where I think we had like a 4 hour session, and I think it was like 12 voices that again were just small little characters. Nobody had more than maybe 5 or 6 lines, but it's kind of fun doing all these different voices and having to keep them sounding very different from each other. So that's what I did for Atlas Fallen.
Got to work on 3 minutes to midnight.
Yeah, another video game produced by a company in Spain.
And you got to be Joe Buckingham.
Yep, Joe Buckingham. Yeah, that was the character. Yeah, he kind of talks like this. He's been around the block, and it's just uh, he's kind of guy. He was like maybe an ex federal agent or something like that. He's kind of knew what was going on, but now he's just a janitor because he's kind of retired and it keeps him busy.
And you got to work on Yoruba as the narrator.
Europa, yeah, it's a new one that just came out. I guess middle of 2024, 5 or 6 months ago, I guess. And I'm the only voice in it because it's this really beautiful game where you have a character that you explore the planet of Europa, and you keep discovering little clues that have been left in pages of a journal. And I'm the voice of the person who wrote the journal that you hear his voice. And so the story gets put together by listening to these little pieces of information. And it gives the player some idea of what their objective is and, what the storyline is about. So that it's a discovery, game more than anything. But it's got some really nice abilities to fly and soar and uh, just manipulation of the character as you explore the planet of Europa.
All right. You got to work on a TV special called Preschool Musical on a Stick.
Yeah, think that one was. I think that was something they pulled from the Sprouts, uh, if I'm not mistaken.
You got to work on the Dairy Queen kids commercials.
Yeah, I was for but a few years ago, I was the voice of Dairy Queen for all the children's commercials, the commercials that were geared toward children, and so all the like the special things that you'd get if you buy the new kids package, and you get this little character plastic something or other, um, to get kids to come in. So not only can they get loaded up on sugar, but they can walk away with this free little plastic whatever. And so for several years, I did all the voices and the recording, the narration, or whatever for the children's commercials for Dairy Queen.
So, you got to work on Barney and Friends.
Yeah. Booker T. Bookworm. And I also did all of I did their promos for their home videos. So if you got a VHS or a CD of one of their shows, at the beginning and at the end of the show, there would be a voice that was, trying to get you to go out and buy one of their other stories, one of their other things. And it wasn't just Barney shows. It was the company that's distributing Barney, Hit Entertainment. They had a very successful international distribution system set up. So a lot of the big videos, children's videos at the time, were using Hit Entertainment to distribute things. So it included things like Bob the Builder and Angelina Ballerina and the Wiggles and Sherry Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater, and just lots of different products were using Hit Entertainment for their distribution. So after a while, the promos became promos not just of Lyric Studio Barney products, but also all these other products as well that we were promoting.
All right. Do you still have Booker T. Bookworm?
What do you mean, do I still have him? You mean the
Well,
puppet?
he's a puppet.
Yeah, no. Booker T I mean, I just operated and voiced the puppet. I actually worked the puppet and did the voice while I was working him. And that's property of Lyric Studios, the Barney company. They paid to have him created, and it's their property. The puppeteer doesn't get to own the puppet.
What was it like working with Booker T. Bookworm?
What was it like doing that character?
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, like I said earlier, I can't think of anything I've done that I wouldn't consider to be fun. But yeah, it was fun, especially because when I was hired, I thought I was being hired just to do the voice. Because how Barney did all of their stuff, all their production previously, was that you had a person in the Barney suit and in the BJ suit and in all the different character suits. You had someone inside there, and then off stage you had a voice actor who was voicing the character, and so the two people had to kind of work together to make the voice and the body movements and everything work together, not seem out of sync, and not, it had to make sense visually and audibly at the same time. And so they got really good at doing that. And I assumed that that's what they were going to have me do, was stand off stage while the puppeteer was operating the puppet. But they said, no, you're going to operate the puppet also. So although I've always, as a kid and even as an adult, I've always played around with puppets because they're a great source of characterization. You know what I mean? Even just something like this, he's kind of like talking to you. You can make a puppet out of your fingers,
Hey, what are you doing? Hey, I'm on a video right now. Yeah.
I mean, there's puppets everywhere. I've always had a lot of fun doing puppets, but not professionally. And so here was a chance we got trained by someone from, I think it was from Children's Television Network, the people who produced Sesame Street. And I believe they're the ones who actually manufactured, made the puppet. And so we got trained on how to operate the puppet and get the most expression out of it. Now, Booker T. Bookworm was a worm, and so he had no arms and legs. So there was nothing to do with hand motion or expressions like that. Excuse me. The only thing he had to work with was his tail. So they had like a coat hanger running up into the tail, and you could kind of then shape the tail for different scenes, what position you wanted in. But more importantly, is while I'm operating the puppet like this, I'm also with my other hand moving the wire to make his tail kind of curl, and he could emphasize things and with the way the tail moved. So it's just aside from the joy of just creating that puppet and getting to work with all those kids and the dinosaurs and that was just the fun of you know getting to operate the puppet professionally. I've never had that opportunity since, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yes, well, my previous guest, Josh Martin, was in a suit.
Yeah, he was one of the people that because they were doing several shows on the road and specials, and of course, the video production of the TV shows. So they had multiple people that would wear the suit in these different circumstances. Yeah, I know of Josh. We've never met, but I know him.
Well, I need to say hi to Booker T.
I'm sorry. You want to say hi to Booker T,
Yes.
or do you want Booker T to say to hi to you?
He wanted to say hi to me.
Okay.
Hey, hey, Cameron, how you doing? What's up, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Hey, great. Me too. So, what are you doing?
I've been reading books as a kid.
Yeah? Which books?
Well, I like green eggs and ham.
Oh, yeah, one of my favorites.
And there was, if you give a mouse a cookie,
If you give a mouse what?
a cookie,
And then what happens?
and it gets the milk.
Oh, cookies and milk. I've never had cookies and milk, but sounds good to me.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Booker T. Hmm.
Oh, hey, you're welcome.
All right. Here we have Earl back.
Yeah. We got Earl here.
Oh, there you go. Now, Jim Krupa was a puppet captain for Booker T. Bookworm.
Hmm. I think Jim may be the person who trained us. I don't remember for sure, but yeah, I mean, he's the only other person that was involved in the you know puppet development or the puppet manipulation. Because it was always my arm, and while I was talking. So the only other person that could have got a credit um, for the puppet would be the person who trained us. Because that was his case with the other characters. You had Scooter and Miss Hannah. I can't remember. There was uh, a a hen or something, and there was a squirrel. So there was three puppet characters, and we all got trained together.
All right. Well, Earl, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Um, no, not really. Not that I can think of, but I hope that your viewers enjoyed this, and happy to share. and hope that you and everyone out there are having a wonderful holiday season. Although this may not play until after the holidays are over, but right now it's a couple of days after Christmas, so we're kind of in that holiday spirit right now. But year round, have a wonderful season, whatever it is.
Okay, so where are you calling from?
Where am I calling from?
Hmm.
I'm in Plano, Texas, which is just north of Dallas.
All right. Stay tuned for more guests coming up. Until next time, peace.
Bye bye.
Bye.